or actually three excellent talks this morning. The first one, just to give a quick background, I'm sure most people know about BRICS, but BRICS is the biomedical, whoops, can you go back? BRICS is the Biomedical Research Informatics Computing System, and it's a very comprehensive research and clinical research set of tools that supports research here, both intramurally and extramurally. We're going to be talking today about the Globus workflow. Globus is a technology that allows you to move large data files efficiently across the web. So we're using that to import and to export data from the BRICS, large data sets from the BRICS system. Notably, we'll be able to soon be able to export data from the BRICS platform directly into the Globus endpoint at BioWolf, again, helping to support the kinds of needs here at NIH. We'll also talk about some updates to our UMLS efforts of adding UMLS concepts to both our form structures and data elements. And then lastly, we'll talk a little bit about the upgrades to our UMLS mapping tool that facilitates adding those concepts to the data elements. Okay, so with that, I think I hand it off to you, Preeti. So next slide.
Thank you, Matt. So before we begin today's session, a quick look at logistics. Please keep your microphone muted. We don't want any kind of static noise while the presenters are going over their slides. Today's session, as usual, we will record it and we will post on the BRICS website, and we have the URL in there. And as always, right, we encourage you to participate, ask questions. For the questions, you can either raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask, or you can post it on the chat for the teams. We will be monitoring all the questions throughout the session and answering as we see them. We will also give you time towards the end of each presentation. In case you have questions related to that, you can again unmute yourself and ask your question. So with that, I can quickly go over the agenda items. Like Matt mentioned, we have the following topics today. Globus Workflow, this will be done by our architect, Rajiv, and it will be followed up with the demo on the Globus by Dan Gillis, who's a FIDWAR operations team member. With that, we'll transition into the UMLS work that's been happening in the BRICS Data Dictionary by Dr. Olga Vok. And the last topic of the day is about the UMLS Mapping Tool updates that Dr. Alexander Bukinski has been working on. And we'll end the session with closing remarks from Dr. McAuliffe. With this, I'm going to hand it off to Rajiv for the Globus workflow presentation.
Yeah, hey, good morning, everyone. Happy to be with you all this morning. Like Preeti and Matt said, we will look at the Globus infrastructure that we recently integrated with the BRICS workflow, and to use that to get the data in and out of BRICS, essentially. So in terms of agenda, we'll talk a little bit about the Globus. I'm sure most of you may be familiar with it, maybe already be using that. If not, we'll give a quick look at Globus and how it's used in BRICS. We'll touch upon a couple of workflows around how it is integrated, and then I will hand it over to Dan for giving some of the real life examples and benefits that we have seen using it in BRICS, and followed by a quick demo. As you know, like Globus is a widely used platform in NIH. A lot of ICs and even the CIT HPC group has been using Globus platform for quite some time, the BioWolf platform, and it is owned and operated by University of Chicago. It has a lot of services, primarily for transferring the file, and also they provide like a compute service. They have some workflow automation service also. And primarily, we will be looking at the file transfer service that we have integrated with the with the BRICS platform, right? And as you can see on the right side, the Globus platform provides a secure and reliable file transfer mechanism. What they mean by that is um, basically if when the user wants to transfer some large data sets and large files between a source and a destination, what the user has to do is interact with the Globus web app either through the Globus web app or through the APIs or command line, whatever mechanism that the user choose. And the transfer can be initiated. And that transfer actually happens between the source and destination directly. The data does not traverse through the Globus network at all. So that, and there are features like encryption and things like that that they support. So that's what they mean by secure transfer. And by reliability, they claim that even if there is like some network interruptions and things like that, Globus transfer has the ability to resume from where uh, the transfer stopped. So when the network connection resumes, the file transfer also resumes from that location. Um, and it provides a lot of features to monitor the transfer, etc. Right? So a lot of in the web app, if you log in to the Globus web app, it provides a lot of features. So that's a very quick high-level overview of around what Globus can do and how we can use that. Specifically with respect to BRICS instances, um, lot of advantages are there when using Globus for getting the files into the BRICS system and out of the BRICS, right? Primarily for the large uploads, the current way of doing things are dependent on the uh, when the user logs into the portal and use the submission tool or download tool, um, the current way of doing is dependent on the BRICS or the browser limitations or the network limitations and things like that. So using Globus, a lot of those barriers can be reduced. And then, like Matt mentioned, it will in the future it will also allow users to transfer the file from BRICS to destinations like BioWolf, which is like a, a major use case for a lot of our researchers. So that's a high level overview around Globus and how we are intending to use that in BRICS. We'll move on to the next two slides. I'll talk specifically about the Globus workflow and or the BRICS workflow where Globus is used. One is to submit the data into BRICS, and this next one would be downloading the data, right? So as you know, like the current way, we have the submission tool, which can be used to bring in the data into BRICS and associate that with the studies that we have on the BRICS platform. And as I mentioned, it is done through the browser. Like user can upload the files or a whole directory containing multiple files uh, in the submission tool UI. In addition, now we are providing the ability that the files can be loaded from a BRICS endpoint also. So what the workflow looks like, the user would move the files from user's Globus endpoint, and this could be the user's laptop or the institute's Globus endpoint or any kind of cloud location that the user has the data saved. First, they will have the flexibility to move the file at their own pace and their own convenience using, like I said, the Globus web app or the command line utility or API, whatever the user chooses to move the files from their location to the BRICS Globus endpoint. And once it is within the Globus or once it is within the BRICS infrastructure, then it is easy to move all those large data files very efficiently and quickly into the submission tool and associate it with the studies. And then ultimately, as usual, it goes to the data repository within BRICS. So that is the submission tool um, workflow that we have integrated with. Similarly, for the download tool as well, it's almost exactly the opposite flow. As you probably know, the BRICS platform has the query tool module, which helps the user to query the data from the BRICS or even multiple studies that they have access to, join those studies, get the data, and then they create a package of all those search result. And in the current world, they have the ability to download that data into their laptop. So moving forward, in addition to that, we will also provide the ability to download that package, the query result package, into BRICS Globus endpoint. And once that data is available there, then again, as per users' convenience and needs, they can transfer it to uh, other Globus endpoints. Maybe it could be users' laptop or the research institute's Globus endpoint. Or it could be you can directly share the file with other users using the Globus infrastructure. So as long as it is available in one endpoint, you can share that with multiple people. Or like we mentioned, you can send it to BioWolf platform as well. So those are some of the uh, two key use cases that we see where the uh, Globus integration can be utilized specifically for the large data files. Um, I think with that, I will hand it over to Dan to talk about some of the benefits that we see using Globus and take us through a demo.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Rajiv. So yes, I'll start by talking about some benefits of using the Globus submission on BRICS. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. We'll see improved performance for large submissions. I think anytime the word large or big is thrown around with data, it's always a relative term. But for us, we're talking about relatively small amounts of data. In our testing, we got 2 to 5 times performance improvements on data sets or submissions over over 10 gigabytes large. Even smaller data sets will sometimes have improvements as well. I think this will be most particularly useful for imaging and genomics data, which tend to have pretty big files. Another benefit is that our users on slow or unstable networks will get greater reliability, and this will make it a lot easier for them to submit to our system. Somewhat specialized use case, but for data corrections, those will be significantly more efficient because users will only need to upload files that have changed. Any file that's already been uploaded to the Globus endpoint can still be submitted as it is. So that should make that process significantly easier. And we have one example use case that'll be coming up soon. NEI will be submitting 70,000 optical image series for about 5 terabytes of data using Globus, and we expect this to save them dozens of hours of time in setting up the file transfers and actually doing the file transfers. All right, next slide, Rajiv. Thank you. Now I'll talk about some benefits of using the download option through BRICS via Globus. So right now, users can only download directly to their own systems, either through the browser or through the API. You have to transfer the files to the system that you are using BRICS on. In the Underdog release, however, in June 2025, we will add the ability to transfer the files instead to the BRICS Globus endpoint, which you can then transfer to any system you want via Globus. This will help cut out some middle ground and potentially getting it to the system you want to do your data analysis on. And then, as mentioned before, in the future, we plan on natively integrating transfer to BioWolf via its Globus endpoint. So the benefits of this are just simplified transfer of bigger data. We can download the individual files. We don't have to deal with the zip files that the browser inevitably makes us retrieve. This will, I think, mostly be useful, again, for imaging and genomics data, again, because they are particularly large files and can take a long time to transfer. And this ultimately will lead to simplified sharing of data between research collaborators. And with that, I will have a short demo. Can you go to the next slide, please? We'll do a demo of submitting via Globus onto FIPR. So I should mention there's a few prerequisites. You obviously need to have a Globus account. You'll need to receive account permission to use Globus on the BRICS instance and have that set up for you. And then you'll need to prepare your data for BRICS submission, which is the same process as usual of getting it into our data format. So as mentioned before, this is a two-step process. We'll first upload files to the FIPR endpoint via Globus, and then we will submit those files to FIPR from the FIPR endpoint. So I will share my screen to show a short demo of both steps. I think everyone should be able to see my screen now. This is the Globus web app. This is the file manager. On the left-hand side of my screen is my endpoint on my local computer with a local directory I'm currently in. On the right side is the FIPR endpoint that I have access to. I'm just going to do a short transfer of this demo directory. We'll go retrieve the file contents just so you can see it's a very small directory. I'm going to go back up one and initiate this transfer. It's a pretty simple process. Should probably be done almost immediately since these are fairly small files. We can see everything got transferred. You do need to click this refresh list. It won't refresh on demand until you ask it to. And we can see that everything got transferred over. I'm not going to spend very long on the Globus interface since that's, I think, a little outside the scope of this meeting, but I just wanted to show sort of what it looked like. So we'll now go instead, we're going to submit this bigger data set that has a 500 megabyte file in it. And I will show you that submission process onto FIPR. So we'll switch tabs. We'll go into the submission tool. This should look familiar to some people who have submitted before. We added a new option to the dropdown to upload via Globus. From here, you will add your Globus folder path. Copy that properly. I did. We can load it into FIPR. It'll verify that you've uploaded all your files to Globus just to make sure that the file transfer process is complete to avoid any partially transferred files potentially trying to get submitted. So since we have, we'll say we're ready to upload. It'll take just a moment and it'll load into the validation tool. We'll go ahead and validate as normal. Let's take a moment to validate. Right, and since that passed, we can build our package. I will submit to a directory I made just for this process, and we'll call our dataset similar test. Creating the submission package, and then we will start the upload, and this should transfer in just a matter of seconds, even with our relatively large 500 megabyte file. And we can see that it has completed in just a few seconds. That's a file transfer that wouldn't take too long, but probably would take upwards of a minute on, I think, most people's internet connections with connected to BRICS. That concludes my demo. I will stop sharing my screen. Okay, go ahead. I see a question.
Yeah, so my name is Anu, and I have maybe a couple of questions. I know nothing about Globus. Is that open source system that one could utilize, or is there a license associated with it?
I can take that, Anu. So they have two tiers, free tier and like a premium tier, and they manage and they operate the whole thing, right? We need to like install some setting, like some software, the server software on our infrastructure and manage the endpoints and the storage mechanism and all those things. So our infrastructure team did that for us. But yeah, when you use the free tier, as I understand, it just supports only the transfer or the endpoints. The storage will be just the POSIX or the Unix style file systems. But if you use premium tier with a license, you get to integrate with additional storage backend like cloud and various other things. So yeah, there are two things I haven't like really delved into detail around the differences and stuff like that, but that's at a very high level.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank
So
you.
it's
And
it's University
go
of
ahead,
Chicago who that develops the software, and we license it from them.
okay. The other question I have is when you're doing the data transfer, you mentioned that this is useful for low resource settings or if your connectivity is not great, right? Is there a how does it handle it? Like if you lose connection in the middle of a transfer, what's its behavior? Would you know that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it picks up where it left off. So if you,
Okay.
this is actually one of the nice features of the Globus, is that if you lose connection, it picks it back up where it left off in the transfer.
And if for example, as a repository, I licensed Globus, but my user who wants to submit data, they don't need to license it too, right? They can just create an account and do the data submission.
I'll let you handle that, Rajiv. Yeah.
Yeah, that is correct. So the license, as I understand, is for the entire organization, and there can be and again, I haven't looked at the license detail. It was done by the infrastructure team, and we have the BioWolf. The CIT already has license for it. But yeah,
Okay.
but the user needs to have some software installed on their local machine. It's called Globus Connect Personal. So the Globus infrastructure knows that your laptop is one endpoint where the file
I see.
reside, and yeah. So that is one additional thing that the user would have to do.
And presumably you can push through a complete folder if you want to, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's what
You,
Dan showed in the demo. He moved like a whole folder, and it picked up all the files inside
okay.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This is very useful.
Okay. So there was another question there. So the bulk of the Globus functionality is has been developed and is part of the present system. There is the additional feature that's coming out in June that will allow you to download directly to BioWolf. So that kind of answers that first question. So this summer, you'll see that the ability, one of the next deployments of BRICS will allow the download data to BioWolf. Okay, any other questions quickly before we move on to UMLS? Okay, looks like we're good. Olga, I think you kicked this one off. Is that right?
Yes, good morning. And so our next topic is updates on mapping common data element semantics to unified medical language system concept in BRICS data dictionaries, and I will give a quick update of it. Next slide, please. So BRICS has multiple instances, and each instance has a data dictionary. And it's just a quick update on BRICS. So each BRICS data dictionary uses common data elements and incorporates standard controlled vocabularies. Our BRICS data dictionaries are built on FAIR principles, so which means our data elements have persistent identifiers. We supply our data elements with rich metadata. Our metadata is findable. We are using standard control vocabularies. We support provenance of our data elements, and we constantly improving the quality of our data dictionary. So that's allowed us to very effectively find, query, and um, analyze our data, and building on FAIR principles also helps us to exchange data between different informatics systems. So next slide, please. However, we are facing the common issues which face each large data dictionary. So the count of data elements is growing because science is growing, and we supporting more and more different data models and standards, and that led us to do a research and to find the way how we can unify our data elements and how we can make our data elements more findable. So, and one of the most recent initiatives we took in BRICS is to make our data dictionaries comply with the latest NIH policy for data sharing. And in view of this, we added the option of organizing our data elements based on their semantics, and specifically by mapping our data element semantics to UMLS concepts. So next slide, please. And why we decide to use specifically UMLS concepts? That's for obvious reasons. UMLS is supported by NLM. It incorporates more than 200 different terminologies and vocabularies. And for the last 30 years, UMLS has been a very important tool for biomedical research and health informatics. So, and people use UMLS and rely on UMLS to facilitate interoperability across their different research projects. So, next slide, please. So, what was done since our last presentation on UMLS? We added support of mapping UMLS, mapping CDs, CD semantic and permissible value semantic to UMLS concepts. And so far, we mapped about 4,000 data elements across various BRICS dictionaries. We added the ability to search for data element by concept name or concept identifier. So specifically in the BRICS Data Dictionary, we have an option to search for UMLS concept or UMLS concept name. And when you enter either UMLS concept identifier or the concept name, the BRICS Data Dictionary returns you the set of data elements which semantics is mapped to this concept. And this functionality helps us to make our data dictionaries AI ready, and it also makes our data dictionary and data more computable and supports data discovery. Next slide, please. So the new feature which we implemented, we started annotating our form structure semantics with UMLS concepts. And as well as with our data elements, we allowed each form structure to be assigned up to 3 concepts. And that poses the interesting problem, like how would we map, how would we assure that the semantics of the form structure is mapped accurately to UMLS? So what we have done for this, next slide, please. We for example, for FitBER, we decided to use NINDS, the information from NINDS, and specifically from their Common Data Elements project, where they gathered forms, instruments, which are recommended to use in TBI research. So since it's FitBER, traumatic brain injury research, and they grouped these instruments by their research domains and subdomains. So we decided to use this information to assign our UMLS concepts. Like, for example, for demographics form, they provided that demographics should be collected under participant characteristics domain and under the subdomain demographics. And so what we have done, we found the UMLS concepts which correspond to participant characteristics, and we found UMLS concepts which corresponds to demographics domain. And next slide, please. And we used this to concepts to assign to each demographics form. And again, the BRICS Data Dictionary allows us to search for form structures based on UMLS concept assigned to it. So if you enter demographics in FIDBAR Data Dictionary, you can find free form structures which corresponds to the demographics concept. And the same if you enter into the data dictionary the demographics concept ID. So that allows us to group our form structures under those UMLS concepts which correspond to the NINDS domain and subdomain information. Next slide, please. And then we decided, like, okay, we have the form structure and the certain concept. How would we make sure that all the data elements which belong to these concepts also sit to this form structure also sit under the concept assigned to this form structure. So again, since our data dictionary allows up to 3 UMLS concepts for each data element, we revisit our data elements and we assigned for to each demographics data element the first two concepts, those which we took from the NINDS domain and subdomain, and the third concept is still reflects the common data element semantics. So, and how does it help us? The next slide, please. So now all the data elements which belong to demographic form structure could be found in the data dictionary either by entering the demographics concept ID or by entering the demographics name. So if you search, for example, like give me the list of data elements which are recommended for TBI research in demographic to collect demographics data, you can enter demographics concept ID and you can find like 97 data elements which been assigned the corresponding concept ID. And the next slide, please. And the same can be done if you download the list of data elements and filter them by the concept ID in your Excel spreadsheet. You can find the data elements nicely grouped under the kind of high-level concepts. So that's all from me, and I am, if you have any questions, please ask. And I will give the screen to Alexandra, who will show us the UMLS tool, which was used to complete all this work.
Yeah, so I think we have a question from Anu, Olga. If you can see, I can read the question to you. Have you run across a scenario where there are no relevant CUIs to map to?
Yes, we did. And that's a really good question. So our approach is number one, if we cannot possibly find any relevant CUI, we simply do not assign it. And we assume that UMLS is growing and they are adding new concepts and new concepts ID every month. So we later revisit the UMLS and trying to assign CUIs. And sometimes it looks like a single CUI doesn't work, but we can combine kind of a synthetic concept where we combine a couple of CUIs. So that also works, but these special cases we have to discuss between ourselves. And Denise has a question.
Yes. Hi, good morning, Olga and Matt. Good to see you all. Did you know that you could actually get, and fairly quickly, a new concept created by the NCI Enterprise Vocabulary Services Group, and that those get linked to the UMLS and then do get pushed over there so that they take advantage of all the mappings and things that the NLM does. So if you ever have a situation where you'd really like to get a new scientific concepts, you can just reach out to the EVS team and let them help you get something on the books that you can use and then later replace. They put a temporary UMLS code in there, and then that eventually gets turned into something that's linked to the rest of the UMLS. So that might be a way to kind of have a stopgap alternative to doing nothing.
Oh, Denise, thank you so much. Yes, I would definitely keep it in mind. Thank you so much for letting us know. That's really much appreciated. Thank you.
So one last question for you there, Olga. The mapping is great, but it looks very similar to the NCI effort. Why do we need two parallel efforts that introduce divergence between CDEs in these systems? So I'm going to let you first take a shot. I'm trying to formulate also a response to that. Go ahead, Olga.
We are doing this mapping specifically for BRICS data dictionaries and BRICS researchers. That's why we are taking this effort. Our data dictionaries grow fairly well, and I'll let Matt answer more about it.
Yeah, so our data dictionaries are tied directly to, essentially it's part of our data repository. So we have a very rich data repository in that we have common data elements. Where we get those common data elements to populate our dictionary can be from NCI. It can also be from NLM, or in many of our cases, because we're repositories that support NINDS, they're NINDS common data elements. So we're not duplicating there at all. The added benefit of adding UMLS codes to ours is to make the data more AI ready, more discoverable across. So if we collect two data elements that are similar, like one form, there are multiple forms to collect IQ and the total IQ score. If they all get labeled the same concept, you can then search for that concept, find all those data elements across those forms, and then be able to aggregate that data very quickly in our system. And we're racking up a lot of questions, and let's see if we can get those in order here. I think quickly, Maria, go ahead. Begonis?
Yeah, I definitely want all of the people, the rest of the forum to chat. But I will say, going through trying to even so I'm putting together some search tools across all instances, and I think the why there isn't complete collective efforts is that between the instances, some of the communities want their own governance, right? So I think. But as Matt was saying, the concepts, by being able to group things by semantics, you're able to bring these in across the instances. But I think that's generally, it's the governance that's also coordinating that governance. And then if there's people who want that common data element to diverge and another half that doesn't, how do you deal with that, right? So because we even have subtle differences within data elements that started as one data element, but then the communities were beginning to diverge it, potentially for important reasons. Okay, and I'll let everybody else go.
Thanks, Maria. Denise, I think you're up next.
Yeah, thanks. So to Maria Schatz's question, and also, what you said, of course, NCI's used concept annotations, for 25 years for the very reasons that y'all described. And while it might seem like these are divergent efforts, and in fact, sometimes they are, just like the woman who was just speaking said, that there are sometimes good reasons for having similar data elements that are annotated differently. All of the NCI CDE's concepts, all of EVS's concepts are linked to the UMLS. So it's really quite conceivable, and some of the experiments we're doing now with AI and large language models, that we'll be able to discover the similarities between any CDEs that use concept annotations, especially when they are linked to the UMLS in the way that NCIs are. So I just want to kind of allay any fears that these would be completely divergent, because they really aren't. When we're able to dig deeper more easily with some of the newer tools. And also, Matt and others in NIH are talking about how we try to bring together and not duplicate efforts, especially with all the budget cuts and things like that. But yeah, annotating CDEs with concepts either from the NCIT or really any concept system, but as NIH, UMLS is a great resource, and the cross linkages, not just between NCI Thesaurus and UMLS, but also, they have a team of people mapping over 200 terminologies into those UMLS codes. And so a lot of the crosswalk that you can get comes from UMLS. So I just want to put a plug in there.
Yeah, I think there is. I think you hit the nail on the head. There's a lot more commonality and not a lot of duplication, and there's overlap in that some of the functionality. We try to reuse common data elements and not invent quote common data elements as we go. Okay, one last question, Anu, before we move on.
Yeah,
Yep,
so I
okay.
just wanted to ask, I know you talked about tupling the CDs from NINDS, for example, and you're annotating the CDs and value sets with UMLS, which is a great effort. But I wonder if there are plans to kind of provide that mapping back to the NINDS CDE group so that they are able to update their CDs with these mappings?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I know Olga and the rest of our team interact very closely with the CD efforts over at NINDS, and either they can just go to the dictionary and download all the information, or we can provide it to them. In fact, I think they just had a data call for some information about a particular repository and data elements related to that repository for them. So yeah, we work closely with them in providing the kind of information that they need. So great question. Thanks, Olga. Awesome. Alexandra, you're up. I think we still have plenty of time here for you.
Well, thank you. And I just wanted to say that if any of you all are interested in a more in-depth demo of the UMLS mapping tool, please feel free to reach out to Olga and me, and we'll be happy to schedule that. So next slide. I'm just going to walk through the use of the tool and some of its features. So any of you can go and try out the data element to UMLS mapping tool. Just navigate to the BRICS main website, click on Tools and Analysis. On the Tools and Analysis page, scroll down, and then click on the Launch Data Elements to UMLS mapping tool. Next slide, please. So this is the landing page for the tool. In the upper right-hand corner, there are links to the NLM and the UMLS pages that provide more information. And within this tool, we provide multiple different options. You can filter results by vocabulary, UMLS vocabulary. You can pre-filter your results by the semantic type. There's over 130 different semantic types that categorize the UMLS. We have a keyword search, key phrase search. There is a search by the concept identifier. And then really optimized for BRICS data elements, we have the batch CDE processing. And so you can upload your BRICS CSV file that you've downloaded directly from one of the BRICS data dictionaries. But the batch CDE option isn't just for BRICS data elements. There's a general option as well that I'll talk about. And finally, you have the option of exploring the semantic network. So the UMLS semantic network is a hierarchy of semantic categories that classify the terms within the UMLS, and they range from very broad categories to progressively more specific. And the semantic network visualization tool is an interactive tool for the user to explore what those semantic types mean. And it helps disambiguate between different CUIs when you're trying to decide which one best applies to your data element. And it can really help you pick the one that's most appropriate if there's some confusion. Next slide, please. So here on this, I've just typed in the search phrase, anxiety in older adults. There wasn't a CUI that matched that phrase exactly, but there is the CUI that popped up for anxiety. You can see in the table of results you have in the first column the ranking. So the better matches will appear first. Second column is the concept name, the UMLS concept name, and then the CUI. which is the unique identifier, followed by the definitions. So in my search, I have filtered pre-selected filter categories. So we take definitions from the MSH vocabulary, the NCI vocabulary. And so those definitions will be listed with the vocabulary next to them. And then the semantic type is listed as well. And followed by the last column shows the number of vocabularies that use this particular CUI. So if you hover over the semantic type, it'll provide you a detailed definition of what that semantic type means. It provides some examples. And if you hover over in the tool over the vocabularies column, it'll tell you exactly which vocabularies use that particular CUI. All right, next slide, please. So if I take that CUI for anxiety and I go ahead and I just cut and paste it into the BRICS Data Dictionary, it'll, like Olga said, show us the results of the data elements that have been mapped to that CUI. So I typed it into PDBP dictionary and the FITBR data dictionary, and you can see that they've popped up results. And in fact, the two data elements in PDBP also occur in the FITBR data dictionary. But even if you don't find an exact match where you have the same exact data elements, it'll find data elements that are semantically the same between those two or multiple data dictionaries. And so this can help us find data elements across BRICS instances, which hopefully is useful. Next slide, please. Okay, so for batch processing mode, and again, this has been optimized for BRICS data elements. So if you go to the data dictionary in BRICS and you can download a list of data elements in CSV format, then you can upload it into the batch data element processing tab here. And it'll let you assign CUIs to those data elements. So the first step is selecting that CSV input file. It can be a generic CSV file too. You just have a minimum, that CSV file, the only requirement is that it have a title category and a variable name category. And as long as you have those two columns in your CSV file, it will load your list of data elements. Once you've loaded your list of data elements, it will look at the header for that CSV file and create the drop-down selector. So you can select which search term or which column you want to use for your search term for each data element. And in the BRICS data element file, we have a column for preferred question text. So I selected that in this example. And I have 3 data elements: subject, age, whether or not the subject is a case or a control in the study, and then the subject's primary language that they're spoken. So you can load a list of these data elements, and then you can select which ones you want to search on. I just went with the default. All of them are selected. I want to just point out on the right-hand side, we have a concept of stop words. So stop words are basically a set of common words, phrases, and misspellings that appear often in search text. And so those search stop words are just automatically will be removed from whatever search text you use. And you can edit that interactively as well. Next slide, please. So when you search in the batch processing mode, the UMLS results come back with a table for each data element in your search, and there's a checkbox. So you can select the one that matches your search term most appropriately. You don't have to select one if you don't find any matches. And then you're able to save the table of results in either the BRICS data element format, or you can save it as just the table itself, which is, will save this table that you see in CSV format. And so even if you're not using BRICS data elements, this will work in a more generic sense too. We also have the option of saving in NLM CDE format. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so I'm running out of time, but very quickly here we have in the UMLS tool, we have an interactive visualization of the semantic network. So you can see the semantic network is a hierarchy with, and this is just one portion of the semantic network. So the categories start out very broad. So on the left-hand side, you can see the category event. And if we follow that towards the top, we go to activity, behavior, social behavior, individual behavior. So the categories get more and more specific as you go along. This is a interactive visualization. So next slide, please. If you hover over a particular node, so here I've captured what happens when you hover over laboratory procedure. It will tell you where it is in the hierarchy. It'll also provide the UMLS, the definition of the semantic category, and also some examples. So I think that this is very useful just when I've been exploring mapping data elements to UMLS CUIs, especially the examples. So for example, age is one concept that sometimes comes up as a temporal concept or organism attribute. And so when you look at those in the semantic network, it helps disambiguate, and you can choose which of the categories is more appropriate for your data element. Next slide, please. So future coming soon project that Olga and I are working on is an interactive visualization of all the BRICS data elements that have been mapped to CUIs across the BRICS instances. So in this visualization, real quickly, I have sort of a bubble chart where each bubble represents a UMLS semantic type. And you can click on that type or hover over that type. It's going to tell you how many data elements across BRICS instances have been mapped to that CUI. And when you click on it, it will update an interactive hierarchy on the left, which shows the semantic network, similarly to the example I just showed you. But this time it's annotated with all those BRICS data elements. So you can see the list of all the data elements and all their CUIs that have been assigned to those data elements. And we also provide, since we have access to the summary demographic information for the data elements within BRICS, those also appear on the right-hand side. So like I said, this is a work in progress coming soon to the BRICS main site. And I think that we have come to the end of the time. And there isn't really time for an interactive demo right now. But like I said at the beginning, I'm happy to, if anybody is interested in more in-depth demonstration and wants to reach out to Olga or myself, we'd be happy to meet with you and give you a presentation and show you exactly how to use the tool. So thank you. And are there any questions?
Matt, you're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks, Alexandra, Olga, and everyone else. Could you bring up the tool just quickly, Alexandra? And there was a question about where the semantic network visualization tool or tab that's part of your tool. If you could just show that quickly.
Yep. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so here is the tool. It's right on the BRICS main site, like I showed you. Here I've typed in age. If you hover over,
we just want to see the
this one.
semantic. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so here, yeah, so the semantic network is quite large. If you hover over a node, it will tell you information about that node. You can collapse the nodes to get sort of a bigger picture. Basically, the two broad categories in the UMLS are entity. And you can see if I hover over entity, it gives me a helpful note that says few concepts will be assigned to this broad type. And this all comes from the UMLS semantic network definitions. I'm just reading in the input file and creating the visualization. So if I collapse nodes, then you can see more of what's, this event subtree. One thing
So
to
I'm
Sure.
gonna lots of interesting stuff here, and I would encourage with what Alexandra just said is that if you have any questions, you would like a demo, in-depth demo, reach out to Olga, reach out to Alexandra, as well as the rest of the team for demos, or reach out to me and I can help set it up or answer any of your questions. So I'm going to wrap it up here because we're just about on time, but I really want you to understand that BRICS is a very comprehensive system that supports all data types, including imaging, omics kinds of data, as well as the actual phenotypic or form data, we would call. We base all our work on standards like 21 CFR Part 11, which our method for collecting research data is certified today, and so you could start using that part of the tool. But then we consistently collect that data into our system using the common data elements. We have a PPRL system that's part of it. We're a very secure system. We're 853 Rev 5 certified. And so again, we have a secure system. We're working very closely with the Cater team to add additional identity proofing as well as additional controls and in making sure that our system is secure systems. So lots of good stuff. And I'm just going to finish up with two things. One is that our next meeting, we're going to be talking about an AI-enabled query tool. So you'll be able to query. It has a very rich interface right now, but in the future, we'll show you our present work at the next meeting with our AI-enhanced query tool. And just another thanks for everyone on the team here for their presentations. And you all have a good rest of your Thursday. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.